Hello and welcome to The Insider, a show designed to clue you into the biggest news, events and announcements inside the video games industry, discussing with you some things you may know, some things you may not, and the glue that holds it all together is a little bit of my own opinion. My name is Paul James, thank you very much for watching, and let's get for the episode. So there's a crisis at Bioware. Things are not as they should be, and we've known about this for about the last 2 years now, beginning with the release of Mass Effect Andromeda and ending more recently with the release of Anthem. Well, a report from Jason Schreier of Kotaku fame came out in the last 24 hours, and it was a damning one. It's an hour-long read, and it details a lot of internal problems at Bioware that led to the subpar launch of Anthem. In this week's episode of The Insider, we're going to break down all of that stuff, explore this issue at Bioware, and see how it can be resolved. So let's get into it. As Jason's report frequently discusses, there was a perception within Bioware that they had what they had dubbed to be a Bioware magic. Basically, no matter how torrid or how tormented the development period of a game might be, the Bioware magic at some point would kick in and the product would work out to be a gem. And despite some really troubled development periods during Dragon Age Inquisition, that still resulted in the Bioware magic. It was a Game of the Year winner by multiple outlets back in 2014. And they expected it would just work when Mass Effect Andromeda came out, and it would just work when Anthem released. And in both cases, it didn't. It's forced people to start asking questions. A lot of people have now started to come out of the woodworks and discussed a lot of the issues that they've got with the way Bioware is handling things. And it's causing a real problem. It's caused a lot of friction within the company, outside of it, and the conversation is going to continue to persist for quite a while. Of course, it's not just the state of Bioware that's in question here. We actually need to look at the problem that exists well above Bioware. Bioware is an entity that is owned by EA, and EA's had a lot of problems. We've spoken over the years about what's gone on with Battlefront and Star Wars, the closing of Visceral. There's a whole bunch of problems that have been going on at EA. And there seems to be one name that keeps emerging through a lot of these different problems. And he's not there anymore, but Patrick Soderlund. Patrick's left and he's gone to work on his own thing. He took a fairly meaty pay packet when he left. But in this story about Anthem, there were lots of conversations, there was lots of dialogue going on between him and Bioware, lots of pitches, and he was very, very picky about what he did and he didn't like. And the trend that I noticed as I was reading through Jason's report was that the things that he was glowing about are the things that were either axed or very poorly received upon release. There were some problems there, and another one is, and this is one that could continue to affect Bioware, DICE, and a whole bunch of Motive and a whole bunch of EA's other internal studios, is the fact that they are forcing DICE's Frostbite engine upon everyone. And there's a pecking order within that EA company. So in the case of the development of Anthem really needed some TLC. Bioware needed some help working that Frostbite engine and making it fit into what they were trying to develop in Anthem. And they got some people from Frostbite, so they got some DICE representatives to come over to the studio and begin working with them in Edmonton. And then all of a sudden, when FIFA, EA's most profitable franchise, came knocking on the door saying we needed help, all those people got dragged away. Because they're caught in some pecking order where it's EA Sports at the top, blah, 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 blah. An RPG, no matter whether it's a shared world one like Anthem or a Mass Effect or a Dragon Age, simply isn't as profitable as FIFA, Madden, or a whole host of their other sports franchises. So as soon as those other teams require their services, boom, there goes all the help. That's a big problem. It shouldn't matter whether you're the most profitable team in the company or the least profitable team in the company. Everyone needs that support, and if you're getting help, you should be entitled to get it. There's a big problem over there at EA, and perhaps with Soderlund leaving, things have started to turn around, but that remains to be seen.
So, you found me at last. I suspect you have questions.
So at roughly the same time that Jason's post went live on Kotaku, a post popped up from EA and Bioware, one that basically refuted, borderline dismissed, a whole bunch of the points that Jason had made, despite the fact there clearly hadn't been enough time between their post and Jason's for them to have actually read through the article. They basically attacked Jason / Kotaku and kind of were really critical of the game's media space, whether that is written, such as what Jason's done, videos like this, but I'm definitely not on that level, and basically anyone who wants to sit there and critique the game's development business. And I think it just shows this oblivious sort of state that either Bioware or EA, or potentially both, are in. Journalists, such as Jason, are entitled to do this. It's literally their job to go out, uncover news, report it to the industry. And there's some discretion that's involved. There's times when you find out things and you keep it to yourself because it's going to do more harm than good. But this is an important one. This was an expose on basically the poor working conditions, the poor state that Bioware was in. And that is important to aspiring developers, for example, who love Bioware and everything they've done, from Mass Effect and Dragon Age to Jade Empire to Star Wars, The Old Republic. And obviously it goes on and on and on. There's people that love that franchise, and they are those franchises and that company, and as they're growing up and trying to find their way into the games development business, they might be desperate to get in Bioware. They get in the doors and they find themselves entrenched in what is currently a really awful culture. These sorts of stories are important to those people. They're important to us, the people who consume games. It's well worth this thing being documented. It may not be pleasant, it may not be fun for EA and Bioware to hear these things, but they need to be said. It's time to right the ship. Bioware still has Edmonton and Austin working on several different games. Obviously, Edmonton is still kind of busy wrapping things up for Anthem and polishing and improving, and presumably there's a content plan still to come. Austin will be kind of overseeing a large portion of that, as well as what they're still doing with Star Wars The Old Republic. The core team is moving on presumably to the Dragon Age game that was announced at the Game Awards at the end of last year. We still don't have a proper title for that. What Bioware needs to do right now is go back to a comfy space, be it Dragon Age, be it Mass Effect, something like that, something they're familiar with, that there's a lot of love for, and just build that bucket of goodwill again, because at the moment, it's pretty well empty. They need to win some hearts and minds back. They need to get back into a space that they feel comfortable in, get that studio culture fixed, get that external perception fixed, and then we can go from there. It's not going to take a lot. They just need to revisit some of the decisions they've been making, some of the processes they've got established. And once those start to kind of get moving again the way they should be, everything else will sort itself out as well. Because that Bioware magic does exist. They just don't have a structure in place at the moment that allows it to really shine.
Never give up.
Ready, Javelin 1?
Let's go! You are freelancers.
And so that concludes this week's episode of The Insider. Hope you enjoyed it. If you did, please consider liking, sharing and subscribing. All those buttons are down below here, and hit that notification bell, that way you're alerted to every new video the moment it goes live on the channel. That includes Patch, more of The Insider, Player 2 Plays, Late Game Review, Gamer School and a whole bunch more. There's some awesome stuff there, so please be sure to go and check it out. For written content, please visit the website player2.net.au, where you'll find reviews, previews, opinion pieces, news, features, the Player 2 Writers Draft, links to our podcast series, Dev Diary and the Player 2 podcast, which is now the host for the Player 2 Pixelcast. There's some awesome stuff there. The podcast series are great. Please be sure to check out the website and get it all in your life. Visit us on Patreon, patreon.com/player2au, and kick in a few bucks. At the lower tiers, you get early access to episodes of this, Patched, and a whole bunch more. At the higher tiers, you get monthly episode exclusives and the ability to join us in the Player 2 podcast. For rolling updates, you can find me at Paul James Games on Twitter. The website you'll find at player2au. And until next time, that has been the Bioware crisis discussed, and hopefully one day resolved. Thank you very much for watching, and I'll see you next time.